Hi, hello, and welcome back. It's really nice to be with you. In fact, it's lovely to be with you. And we're here to talk about the personal astrology that's going to be taking place for this weekend, mostly next week. And for a lot of us, remember we've had two planets, one planet start to go direct, which is Neptune in Pisces. I talked about that last week. And what we've got coming up is Chiron, the wounded healer, is going direct very quickly on the 13th. So what's going to happen is we've got Mercury enter Sagittarius on the 9th. Then we've got the full moon, the last full moon before the eclipse, happening on December the 12th. And then straight after that, we're going to have Chiron going direct. So it's a couple of things are going to happen, which are going to be quite big. And Chiron going direct is going to be a real decision maker for a lot of us. And Chiron, if you remember, is the wounded healer. So Chiron has been going in deep, having a look at our wounds, areas where we're carrying limitations, areas where because of something that's happened in our life, we're now perhaps feeling unable to fully live our life in the direction we want to go, and we may or may not be aware of that. And Chiron has been bringing that to attention for the last 6 months. Now, Chiron does go into retrograde a lot, and every year, or most of the planets go into retrograde every year. But this year, if you remember, we had 5 planets and one asteroid, which is Chiron, going into retrograde all at the same time. So we've had some really going deep. And when we go deep, what's interesting about that, it's stuff that we're not actually really aware of. And when I say stuff, I mean hurts, energies, barriers, limiting self-beliefs, and these things have been coming up. And there's been some real breakthrough ahas for me, and I'm hoping for you, about self-beliefs that I had and wounds that I've been carrying that had changed the way that I've been living my life. And now I've just decided, no, I need to now live my life fully. And can you see, I'm in my winter woolies because in the last week it has just turned cold. So if you're wondering about the change of attire, it's because we've gone from beautiful 31 degrees and 21 overnight down to 7 degrees overnight. And when you're living in housing that has no windows and has no insulation, whatever temperature it is outside, that's the temperature it is inside. So 7 degrees, it's cold. Okay, so I'm wrapping up, warming up. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. On the 9th, if I glance down, I'm looking at my notes. Mercury enters Sagittarius, and this is not such a bad thing because most people are going, I need a bit of a mental break, and here it is. Because Mercury is about communication, which is really lovely, and going into Sagittarius. But Sagittarius is this very optimistic sign, and it's broad, it's not deep. So our thinking and our communication and what we want to talk about is going to shift perspective. So we're going to be really thinking quite philosophically. There's going to be a lot of freedom. We might find ourselves moving in a lot of really different directions. And it's really quite a positive place. And I think that's a really good place to be when Chiron is now, and because remember, Chiron is coming up to being stationary. When the planets come up to stationary, there's a lot of churn. So like I was saying before, there's a lot of aha moments and a lot of realizations that's going to be coming together. So it's very nice to have the planet of communication just in the house of Sagittarius, just opening us up and being very open to exploring these ideas. And I think that's going to take the edge off Chiron coming into direct and coming out of retrograde. So that's very, very nice. The only thing to be a little bit aware of with this energy of Mercury moving into Sagittarius is we might just be a wee bit blunt with the tongue. So that's the other side of that. We might be very clear about what we're going to say, and it might just be a little bit too blunt. So just be aware when we're having our conversations, and particularly if we're feeling hurt or we're dealing with someone, talking with someone who's feeling hurt, just be aware to be a little bit gentle with the mouth, with the language, with the tone, with the pitch, so we don't come off too hard. So that's going to be a Mercury in Sagittarius, a bit of a blessing. Now, December the 12th, and this is often called the cold moon because it's in winter in the north, but it's also the long moon because it's in the sky for a long time because the moon is quite close to Earth. Because remember, all of the planets and all of the asteroids and all of the moons, we all move in eclipses. On a planet now. No, they all move in eclipses. So that's why sometimes they're closer to the Earth, to the Sun, and so it changes a little bit. So the moon is going to be quite close to the Earth on the 12th, and the full moon is going to be at 12 minutes past 12 o'clock a.m. So the full moon on December the 12th is at its fullest on the 12th minute past midnight. So that's 12, 12, 12. So I don't need to tell you that when you have repetition, it's important. This is a repetition of ones and twos. It's also repetitions of threes. This is going to be quite the full moon. It's going to be happening in Gemini. And Gemini is the planet of communication. So we're going Mercury into Sagittarius, big, open, wanting to communicate a lot. We've got the full moon in Gemini, so there's going to be a lot of communication, and there's going to be a lot we want to communicate. And remember, full moons are highlighting. They're doing two things. They're highlighting areas that may have been hidden before, and we're going to be able to then to articulate, and this is the most important thing, we're going to be able to articulate. So for those of us who've been struggling with feelings that we've been unable to name, or some intuitions that we've been unable to name, or things that we understand fundamentally, but we haven't been able to find the words to communicate those, that's all about to change. We're now going to be in a position where we are going to be really articulate, and we're going to be able to clearly state, either in our own hearts and minds and souls or within other people, because often we need to be able to communicate with ourselves first before we can communicate with other people what's happening in our lives and how we're feeling. So this is really important for us to start to trust that on the 12th at 12:12 we're going to be able to articulate all those little things that we've been feeling and that we've been exploring. And with this full moon, we're going to now have enormous clarity about that. And isn't that a huge sigh of relief? So that's fascinating that that's going to be happening. And for those of you in numerology, we've got 12, 12, and 12. Now 12, of course, is the 12th house, which is the last house, and the 12th, which is in the last month of the last, if we look at it as the last house, that is often about things we have to learn, things, life lessons. It's about karma, it's about kismet, and that's all happening in the 12th house. So there's going to be a great deal of us getting great clarity and learning and understanding why things have been like they are, what the lessons have been, and how we can now use that, because that's really what understanding is, and then being able to verbalize the new truths and how we see them about ourselves. So I think all of that is absolutely fabulous. Now, on the 13th, Chiron, straight after, Chiron is going to go direct into Aries. Now, isn't that fascinating? Now, what's going to happen with Chiron direct in Aries? Aries is the ram. It's quite fiery. Mars is the planet of Aries. So we are really going to be quite fired up about all we have learnt about ourselves and all we have healed about ourselves. And so we are going to be wanting to speak that truth. And there's, I don't think there's any other way to say this. There's probably going to be some bust-ups. Because you're going to come out of this understanding really fired up, really quite ready to go. Mercury is going to be into Sagittarius, so we're going to be very articulate. We're going to have this lovely full moon, so we're going to be very highlighted. It's also going to be Gemini, so we're going to be very articulate, and we're going to want to talk about this and get our perspective across, and we're going to be very strong about that. And if people are not going to be receptive, boom, there's going to be some breakups. And the other reason I think we might have some breakups in relationships is because Chiron has been showing us where we have been allowing ourselves to be damaged, or we have been damaging ourselves. And if we've been allowing ourselves to be damaged, then we've been allowing other people to take advantage of us. And so there's going to be a real ending to dysfunctional relationships that are not fulfilling us. And we're going to be drawing a big line across going, nope, no way. This is the boundary. You cross that boundary. I'm going to tell you you've crossed that boundary, and you're going to know that I'm telling you you've crossed that boundary. And I'm not putting up with it. And you'll see that those people, or not just one individual, but maybe the situation as well, that you're finding yourself in, you're going to just over, dead dog, bye, and move on out. So that's the other thing that's going to be happening with Chiron going direct. Now, I'll just let you know that when we've had Neptune also starting to go direct, and now I've got Chiron going direct, so often what you get when this is happening, you get some voids, you get turmoil. This time we're actually getting a void. So often we get a lot of churn and we're not too clear what it is. Luckily, it's a bit of a void. So it's a bit of a breathing space, because it's like we've cleared out the energy and the noise and the sounds to let the things we need to hear bubble up. So if you're really too worried about what the message is and you're trying too hard to make sense of it, I'm going to tell you now, stop doing that. Just go into the void, go into the space, and give the message time to breathe and articulate and come together. And for the next week, we'll start to get these really strong aha moments, and you'll notice that you'll understand all of a sudden why your life is like that, and you'll feel brave enough to make the steps to change that. So it's a lovely, lovely time that we're coming into. So for those of you who've been reaching out and getting assistance with the healing, well done. Chat to people that you trust completely. And remember, you don't necessarily have to chat to someone in your tribe, because you might actually be finding out right now that the people who were your tribe 12 months ago, 6 months ago, they're not your tribe anymore. And you might be looking for something new. Okay, so that's the personal astrology. I will give you later on the business astrology. I won't do a huge recap like this one. I'll just take it straight into the business, because the business is all about finance and a little bit to do with relationships, but a lot of it has so got to do with finance. Okay, take care. I'll be back with the cards soon. Bye.